Okay. So, Kavita, welcome.
Thank you.
Today we talk as part of our subgroup solution document and in IBG group, issue-based group education for Catalyst 2030. We are both members.
Yes.
And we shall talk about your perspective in education and your solution in education and different challenges, different opportunities. That's what we will try to do together. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So, Kavita, first of all, I have seen while researching your work and going through your work, I have seen that you have lots of bold ideas.
Yes.
There are many, many bold ideas.
Many.
And of course, you have this popular video putting in boxes people. But I want to start with something a little bit different. First of all, you say from one hand you concentrate a lot to the quality improvement of schools, but on the other hand, you are making a very interesting definition about learning, and you say when someone is interested to understand the answer of a question, then learning occurs, and individually or collaboratively. So can we start from this? This is a very, very broad definition, so to speak.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, learning is something that happens from the time that you are literally born, maybe even before you are born. And it is something that happens till you're dead. I don't think that I mean, you may be aware of it or you may be unaware of it, but you are learning. And I think that learning happens because either something happens to you which causes you to inquire unconsciously, or something happens where you are, something inside you comes and you want to inquire more consciously. So that is, but both places is an inquiry. There is something happens, either a stimulus from outside or a stimulus from inside, but there is an inquiry that gets generated and you try and find out and understand something. Sometimes you come to an answer very quickly and sometimes you take time and really reflect. And that is always better, I think.
Okay. But then my question is, why do you spend so much time about improving the quality of conventional schools or creating new schools through conventional schools, let's say?
Yes, I think it's very simple. I looked at the situation and I saw that across the world, the school was considered like the most legitimate way in which any society brings up its young. And it occurred to me that it was the most amazing thing that you will have very different, nations of all kinds, whether they are high income, low income, democratic, undemocratic, whatever, authoritarian, liberal, but all of them will have schools for their children, every single country. And I thought this is the most unifying thing across every single country.
Yeah.
I think we have different food, we have different clothes, we have different language, but we all have a school. And I thought, okay, this is looking like it's going to be very difficult to change this, because you cannot change an entire planet which has decided that school is the way to be. But what you can change is the notion of what should happen in a school. And so the idea was that you kind of take that school and humanize it, because the school has been created by adults for the convenience of an adult. It is not created for children from the point of view of how they learn.
Yeah.
And that's the mistake. So I think it's really about saying, how do we make it more child friendly? I mean, how do we make it driven by children?
Yeah, and there's a big gap between the requirements of the life afterwards and the education that we give to children. Probably they are 100 years old or 200 years old, the whole system, and they don't fit. And you are so right to say that most of the children are very frustrated, and there is hardly a correlation between being a good student and being successful in life as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
I have seen it. I've seen it happen in my own family where I have two brothers. One was very good at studies and one was not, but both are very successful. So there is nothing that says that school has to be your measure of success.
Yeah, and sometimes it works reversely, on the
Yes,
contrary.
exactly.
Let's say some very talented children are not incorporated within the system properly. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and if they ask questions which are inconvenient, then they are kept quiet even more.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. As a curious child, I also know very well that we have the famous saying "curiosity killed the cat," which is totally nonsense, I would say. Okay.
Right.
And you started your journey by a research, as far as I understand, and then you established your own school, and
I
then
did.
you were
But
not.
it wasn't my school. Look, it was a school for another group of people.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it was a community of businessmen. So if first I started my preschool, that was mine, and
Yes.
then the big school that I started was for a private school for a business community.
For a business community, but they should be quite innovative to let you to.
I don't think they knew what they were in for.
Oh, really? Okay, can you a little bit tell about the principles that you had there?
So the way I kind of looked at it was that it has to be really led by the child and what they want to learn.
Okay.
So I had no textbooks at all, and the children were asked what they want to learn and how they want to learn, and so they decided the full curriculum. The teachers were not very excited by that. They wanted a textbook. I said there is going to be no textbook. So so the teachers used to be very unhappy for the first year in the school, and if they were still unhappy in the second year, they would leave.
Oh, okay.
And if they were not unhappy, then they would stay, and that would be good. So
and how many of them lived, like which percentage lived the school to be on the conventional side, let's say?
I think 1 out of 7 or 8.
Oh, it's not so big. So
It's
most
not
of the
big. It's not big. Most of them actually really enjoyed it after they went through the pain, and we kind of held their hand through it. But then they had to do a lot of struggle on their own, and then they came out the other side, and most of them stayed and loved it.
I see.
So yeah.
And in one of your speech, you said textbooks are, let's say, preventing communication of the children among themselves as well as with teachers.
Yes, textbooks are the worst things because they are written by great people who live in ivory towers. And they don't know, they just put facts, and the children are not at all interested in those facts, and it's very, very silly. I think that's the one thing that we should get rid of.
I see.
It's big business. It's very hard to get rid of it.
Yeah, nationwide or let's say planet-wise, it's quite hard still to get rid of textbooks, probably.
Yes. Yeah.
Why do you think so? Like, what are the obstacles to insist on textbooks?
So I think it comes from this very strong idea that we can't trust the teachers because we don't do enough in terms of actually preparing them. So we tend to teach teachers that you have to teach a subject, but we don't say you have to teach children. And then the whole thing gets all lopsided, So a teacher goes in and she thinks this is the content I have to teach. What she doesn't realize is that she has to teach these children who are dying of curiosity and want to know so many things and have so many questions.
Yeah.
And that then gets killed in the school,
I definitely understand. So it requires much more work to educate, let's say, the teachers themselves,
Yes.
and to prepare them for a whole different type of education, and centered around children, we should say.
Yes, and to
Yeah.
let them realize that they can't, today it is impossible to know everything in a subject. So you really, you can be a learner, you can be the first learner in the classroom as a teacher.
Yeah.
And if you are the learner, then the other children get excited because they are following in your footsteps. So you can be, with the children, but like the biggest child. And I think that can be the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
You know?
And does this school continue to exist?
It
Okay.
continues.
Is
Yes.
it changed, or is it continuing the same with the same principles?
Changed.
Changed. Yeah. Yeah. Probably the other way is a little bit easier, I would say.
It is. It is.
Okay. And when I looked, let's say, to your past, the most entrepreneurial stuff you did is not to be satisfied with what you did, and wanted a bigger scale, bigger achievements. So you founded your own foundation, I would say.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. And I see two things. Sorry, two types of foundations. One is a foundation, and the second is a social enterprise.
That's right. Because because I initially I had no capital, Haluk.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, I have to earn my money. So, and if you have a foundation, then you have to beg for the money. And it's very hard to beg for the money when you don't have anybody who thinks you can do anything, right? And I mean, like, you have not got any previous experience, so it's very strange. Everybody wants to only fund the people who already have done a lot of big work.
Yeah.
So I thought, let me earn the money myself, let me put myself in the market and see if I can survive. So that's how I started. And then when I built on that, I had done enough work, about 6 years of work. Then I started the foundation.
I see. I see. So you have been kind of consulting, providing consulting services, and then after 6 years, you opened your own foundation.
Foundation, yeah.
I
So
see.
the first, the social enterprise does exactly the same thing but it does it with private schools. And the foundation works with government schools. In India, we have all kinds of schools. We have government schools, we have aided schools, which means the government pays the salaries, but the management is private. And then we have fully private schools. So we have 3 different kinds of schools.
I see. And of course, you serve the private ones, and through your foundation, you served the government ones.
Schools.
Yeah, government schools. Okay. And when you started all these this foundation journey, and you spent 6 years on providing consulting services, do you believe that the situation currently is different? Like, could you explain your ideas better today and can get better funded, except COVID period, because this is an incredible different period.
Yeah, so I realized 2 things. One is that it is not easy for me to convince people for 2 reasons for the social enterprise. And that is that I do not have after.
I don't hear you.
Sorry, after we started with the quality standards,
yeah,
the government also came out with quality standards, which we had helped them to write. So we also contributed to those standards. And then the Board of Examinations also came out recently with some standards.
Yeah.
So in that sense, we are now competing with legitimate government standards, and that is very difficult because so my feeling is that we will have to give up on the standards that we had created, and we will have to work with what the government has created.
Okay.
because we do not have a legitimacy for our standards, right? And the way the
Yeah.
government has. But what I think is easier in the foundation is that now people have realized that what we are doing is more about governance, because the standards are used as a tool for leadership, and it generates data, and the data has to be acted on. And in India, we had always treated data like it was a passing the parcel. So the school will
I didn't get it. You treat data in India as
like the game of passing the parcel. I don't know,
okay.
you know.
Now
Yeah,
I
you know
understand.
the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know the
So
game, but I understand what you mean.
okay, so the school generates the data and
Okay.
passes it to the community, which is at the block level. So we have a block and a district and a state in the
Okay.
country. So the school will pass it to the block passes it to the district passes it to the state passes it to the nation, and then they bring out at that level, they bring out a report, and nobody does anything.
I see.
Because it is very big data. It is big, high meta level data, which everybody looks at and says, so this is the state of the country. But at the school level, the data is not looked at. Nobody acts on it. So when we came in and we said, no, you act on the data. This is your data. So you have to do something. And then they looked at us and said, we don't know what we can do with the data. So that was really interesting. And then we kind of said, okay, so you pick up on one standard and tell us what you are planning. And then so they said, you mean we can decide the standard? We said, yes, you can decide the standard. So this whole feeling that how can we make a decision? Otherwise, we only follow orders. And the order comes from the nation to the state, from the state to the district, from the district to the block, from the block to the school.
Yeah.
So the school is the lowest person in the hierarchy. So for them to be told that, oh yes, you can choose and you can do something. And then when you decide, you can tell that, yes, I have made a difference, I have changed. And then we will bring those people back into your school and they will look at it and they will agree. And then your school will move in the estimation of the country that you are better. And so that putting the agency in the hand of the school for their own improvement was a big step.
Yeah.
And before that, even doing the assessment with all the students and the teachers and the leaders in the same room was a big step, because again, there's a hierarchy in the school. And the student, nobody listens to the student. Ever.
Yeah.
So
it's like government not listening the schools actually making the decisions.
Exactly. Same thing.
Yeah.
And the parents are too scared of the principal and the teachers, because if the parents feel that if we go and say something, then the child will get poor marks because they will be assessed badly because we have complained. And so there is no trust. There is no trust in each other. There's no trust in the system. So it is nobody says that something is not okay.
And this is exactly the dynamism of reproducing kind of authoritarianism, actually.
Yes, it is a perfect method of doing that. And our schools have very successfully taught fear to people right through for generations, centuries.
and your whole solution is centered about deciding the criteria and then benchmarking and doing this with all stakeholders. Am I right about
with
that?
All stakeholders,
yeah. And actually, it's very simple. The idea is very simple, very easy, but very difficult in practice. That probably stakeholders have lots of different agenda and different, let's say, conflict potential.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they are really, it's great fun because when they actually listen to each other, and usually the person who is the principal or the headmaster has to learn to listen to what they are saying. And then when he is listening or she is listening, then suddenly it's okay. They are able to come to a resolution. But that learning to listen is the hard part.
And how do you achieve this? What are your basic tools?
Modeling, that's all.
Modeling. Can you elaborate modeling?
So you actually show how to listen, right? You
Okay.
show how to listen. You show how to accept. You show how to say, I understand. And you kind of accept each person, and then you say, okay, so if this is where we are, then where would you like to go? Where would you like to move? And you find that it is, the leadership of the school is watching all the time. How are you? So many reviews at the end, we have heard, we really like the way you listen. We have learned how to listen. And this is so interesting. It's really, you said simple, hard to implement.
But this is something excellent to hear also for the principals and for the whole system.
Yes.
Especially when people are used to not to listen, not to even consider listening. It's an excellent result, I would say. So
yes.
So as far as I understand, you are quite happy from what you did, but there are lots of things that you couldn't do.
Yes,
and there
lots
are
of things I could not do.
and there are also lots of things you couldn't change, let's say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is largely around governance, and that is the one thing that I'm now determined to work on.
Okay.
Is how do I work with governance? Because that is, I feel that it's, policy is first of all hard to write, but people write it, and some of our policy is very beautiful, very aspirational, very lovely, but then it is kept like one little picture on the wall. This is our policy.
Yeah.
But our practice has no connection. So I want to work on how do you actually work in a space where you understand policy and you bring it down to practical terms and you actually live policy. And this is something that I did in the school that you saw that I had set up, because every year there was an argument with the management about a simple thing. I want 36 children in the classroom, not more, not 37, not 35. I want 36. The day I have 36, I will close the recruitment or enrollment of students. And every year they would say, no. The chief minister has written, the prime minister has written, some other, and you have to take this child. And I would say, here is my resignation. I am leaving. If you do not wish to do what you are saying, then I do not wish to stay here. And then they would go back and say, okay, no, we will take it, we will not force you. But that simple things like that, can you really stick to your guns? Can you stick to what you've said? Can you just do what you've promised? That's what has to happen. People have to have trust and faith in the fact that if you said something, you believe it, you mean it, and you have said a good thing. So why should you not believe it and mean it?
It reminds me of our Turkish expression. If you let the rule to break, a path happens. There will be a path, and lots of people will cross this path.
Yes.
And in your annual report, you said an incredible thing happened due to COVID. And now the unquestioned is questioned, is interrogated. So eternal state has changed, and we have a good national education policy that comes around. But now, as you say, it is something different to have a good law. It is something different to have a justice. So now you are, let's say, following the justice to happen. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, okay. And as far as I understood, also there are big decreases in numbers of funding you get. if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, there's a very big decrease because I think it started just before COVID. And then when the schools closed and there was no money that they could give me, then that was the end of the social enterprise. It was like I could hardly do anything. And then in the funding, I had only one funder because we had started with one state. And so the Tata Trusts were the funder. And then they felt they had to put their money into the Prime Minister's fund. And so they put all their money there and they said, sorry, we cannot give you a second grant. And so then we had almost we didn't know what to do. And then luckily for us, a couple of things that happened were good. One is that we found out that there are the wealthy schools are able to do fundraising. And so I went to all the schools that I had in my social enterprise. And I said, help the foundation to survive. But do not do it by just charity. I don't want charity. I want to create a program where the children understand how privileged they are. And they understand that the other child has got no school, whereas they have got full online school, very high quality. And the other child has got nothing. And I want them to feel the pain and then raise the funds. So we have a program called the Peer Learning Program, where the children who are without school meet the children who are with school, and they talk to each other, they play games with each other, they learn from each other. And it is the platform is one of total equality. And the children who are from the privileged space, they feel so bad that these are wonderful children, because all children are wonderful.
Yeah.
And they don't have what I have. And then they raise funds. So we have been able to raise some amount of funding from that. And then we had one organization which gave us a small amount to get fundraisers. They paid us money to get 2 fundraising experts. And we got those people in, and then one of them is managing the crowdfunding, and one of them is managing institutional grants. And then we just took all kinds of work. We took whatever we could get, as long as we could work with a framework and self-reflection. So that was our basis, that can we work with organizations in a way that helps them to become reflective organizations? And that's if that is yes, then yes, we will take it on. We'll work with you. So we have done everything that we could possibly do, and we have survived till now. But every month it is, tomorrow, is it going to come or not?
But it's very interesting that you really kind of walk the talk, involving children within also your survival, which is very let's say good experience for the children as well,
yes,
to understand what is life, because life is not just about the education itself.
Exactly.
I see.
And I really feel that, we are very wrong when we expect that all development programs have to be directed to the countries which have low incomes. I think many of the development programs should be for countries that have high incomes, because they have to stop consumption. They have to stop blind consumption, because if they don't, then we can all live in poverty, but the world will still come to an end. Because the climate change is not happening because of the African subcontinent or the Asian subcontinent. It is happening because of the American consumption.
Yeah, actually, those who consume don't suffer so much, but it's also changing a little bit.
But they're causing the suffering to everybody else.
Yeah,
and they're now causing the suffering to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
I think if you look at plastic usage, what is it that we can do to stop plastic from being used at the rate it is used? In the Western countries, which are just everything is packaged in plastic.
Yeah.
And then that plastic is dumped in India and in all of the Southwest Asian countries. So how are we going to survive, and how are they going to survive with the climate change? I don't think there's going to be any answer. So we're all connected, and we cannot keep saying that the development has to only happen in the low-income countries.
Actually, the whole world is so interconnected that we discovered it even more fiercely during pandemic, of course.
Yes.
But still, when you look the numbers of vaccination, for example, the same inequality is going on. I have just heard last week, even South Korea cannot get enough vaccines. Can you imagine a country with so much GDP cannot get enough vaccines? So what about the African countries and the many poor countries that do not have resources?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, we look at that and we say, fine. I mean, and then when you have, you know, a storm in Los Angeles, or I mean in California,
Yeah.
or in then and you think that, but you are also causing that to happen. You are making the ozone layer depleted. You are causing the glaciers to melt. So
Unfortunately,
we are going to all get suffer. We're all going to suffer because of that.
But it seems like the world is now divided into two. Those who care about what is going on, and those who really don't care at all about what is going on. And this exists in all countries. Unfortunately, this exists in all countries. Like it exists in India, it exists in Turkey, it exists in US, and half of the population, or maybe 30% of the population, don't give a damn to anything that happens.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So as part of now you are part. Yeah, please.
I often say that if we can give up on the idea of patenting knowledge, it will be really useful, because if we don't, then we should actually acknowledge that currently all of the education we are getting comes from Aristotle and Plato.
Yes.
And so we should be giving, all of us should be giving money to Greece, because then the patenting of knowledge should happen in that way.
Yeah. and this is definitely not the situation, for sure. As someone living in Greece, I can say. Yeah. And it's also very interesting, the whole concept of private property about knowledge is not more than 3 century stuff. Exactly. When we look at history, there was no such thing as private property of this
exactly
knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because sometimes when we live when we see some concepts, we believe they are eternal, but they are not eternal at all. They are very, very, very new. Okay. So now you are part of Catalyst 2030. And the main concept that the whole movement centers is collaboration. And I saw in your work lots of collaborations with government and other NGOs. Can you little bit tell about this as well?
I believe that it cannot be done alone. I believe that it has to be done together. I believe there is nobody who is doing something just because they want to be bad to other people. I believe that everybody, including murderers, think they're doing a good thing. You know? So I think we have to understand and work with each other, but we have to learn to listen and understand, and then do this together. And it's a, you know, a big problem requires a big solution. You cannot solve a big problem alone. It's not possible.
Yeah. And you work with governments successfully.
I work with governments successfully because I only work with governments who invite us in. Oh, okay. Unfortunately, in Goa, the person who invited us lasted only for 1.5 years, and he died of cancer.
Oh,
he was
so sorry.
Chief Minister of Goa. Yeah. And then after that, it has not been easy. Yeah. But then you build relationships with everybody, and at the moment, everybody knows us and they tolerate us, I would say.
They tolerate you.
They tolerate us. They still call us outsiders, but they tolerate us.
How scalable are your solutions?
incredibly scalable.
Okay.
Incredibly scalable. The only thing, and really because we have also learned to be able to link it with actually what is in the policy itself. So in no way are we going against government. In no way are we saying that we are, disagreeing with anything. But what we are saying is, can we fashion and shape what exists so that it becomes humane? That's all we are saying.
Yeah. And so it can be practiced in different parts of India as well as other parts of the world.
It can be practiced in any country. It can be practiced in Greece.
Yeah.
It can be practiced anywhere.
Okay. Okay. And when it comes to and why is it not practiced then? Do you believe?
Well, I think there are two big reasons. One is that there is a sort of like everybody thinks they have a solution, and everybody thinks their solution is more important. So it is very hard to get buy-in from people in the social sector itself. And so if I can't even get that, then it's really, even more difficult. The government is the most fragmented entity. They only work in silos. Every NGO thinks they have got the answer. So I am saying, okay, maybe it's better that I'm dying, because maybe other people have better answers and I don't have better answers. But I also know that the second piece which I want to talk about, which is I have realized in the last 2 years, is that if I had been a very wealthy NGO, I would have got a lot more traction. The problem is I came into the game late. I came in after the school was set up, and I had then worked with the private schools, and then I came into this sector. So in a way, I have been I'm a baby in terms of the organization. There are very big established organizations out there who think they know how to do it. Most of them are run by men who think they know end of themselves. So it's like great. And they're all fantastic. So I think it's just brilliant. So I mean, like, more power to them. Maybe they know how to solve the problem. If nobody is willing to listen to me, then it's better that I close shop. That is the better thing to do.
But that's probably not your thing, or what you believe.
That's not what I believe. I will keep going till my dying breath, but I am saying that it is possible that I will not be able to survive simply because nobody backs you, nobody supports you. I'm trying whatever I can, and I am very happy to say that I can get the traction I can, but almost everybody who works with me is not necessarily going to last if there is if a big party comes in and takes over, which they can anytime. Nobody will let us survive. So I know that the politics of this place is also something that's a risk, always.
I see.
I could be closed down because some other very big NGO comes in and says we can do it.
So you bring also the topic of gender, which is always present.
It's always present. It's a very masculine world, and I understand that. And I think the reason why we are going to die is because it's a masculine world.
Yeah, we know what the masculine world has brought us to which point.
Yes. We know what they practice.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. Being a man still.
But I know it sounds very sexist, and I'm not sexist. I love the men that I know. I love them very much. So I don't have. I think what I'm saying is that there's a testosterone that's a problem in the world, and I think that somewhere we have to bring the nurturing part of ourselves into the world. And I know a lot of women who are also equally problematic, honestly, Haluk. I don't think that it's not a man-woman issue.
No.
It's not, but it's really about and I think that when I say nurturing, there are two things. One, you really have to believe that everybody should prosper and thrive. You really, from your heart, from your being, you have to believe that it is possible. And I think that is the thing that I find missing in a lot of people. They feel that it's a dog-eat-dog world. and that you have to compete to thrive. I don't believe that. I believe
Okay.
there is enough space in this planet for everybody, and that everybody can be happy. And that's what I think, that's what I feel is the nurturing part. And the other part is this willingness to do it, to listen to everybody and say, how can we all manage to make this work for everybody? Like, I think that mothers have this naturally because they feel that all my children should do well. So I think that is the feeling that I think that we need to develop, which is that sense that everyone should do well.
Yeah.
Nobody should be unhappy.
Yeah.
And that really needs to scale. That feeling needs to scale.
Actually, that feeling needs to scale even more than any kind of solutions that we have.
Yes, that feeling needs to scale.
Yeah.
The belief needs to scale.
Yeah. And you also talked a little bit about your frustrations, especially the masculinity of this world, in the sense of, let's say, putting competition at the center rather than collaboration, and not leaving anybody behind. So this is a real, let's say, frustration that we may all have.
It is a frustration, and I find that everybody, in the government especially, there is this whole thing of my convenience, my well-being, it's all my that whole conversation is about like, how is it? And I keep thinking, you're going to keep focusing on yourself, and all of us are dying, and you will focus on yourself and die. That's all. That's the only difference. We are focusing on everybody and dying, but we're all dying, so it's okay. It doesn't matter. Okay. It's so sad that we can go to the moon, Haluk, but we cannot solve this problem.
Yeah, I believe Einstein said it is more difficult to make people believe something than making atom into pieces. It's what you are saying exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
and what about your collaboration with other NGOs? You in your report, I have seen lots of collaborations with different NGOs. How did they go? Were they really successful? What are the challenges of these collaborations?
So there are some NGOs with whom we are collaborating over many years, and they are quite successful. We believe in their work. They believe in our work. There is a willingness to work together. And I think that's been very good. Most of the people that I work with, I don't have a problem, because I am not worried about my agenda. I think it's not about what I want to do. It's about what is good for the world and what is good for the children. And I think that makes it easy for us to partner with other people.
Yes, yesterday in the conversation cafe, there was a question about this, and I said exactly the same thing. If everybody enters a collaboration with the same identity that they have, then there is no such thing as collaboration. Everybody pursue their own agenda, and nothing happens out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we need to really give up our own ego somewhere before starting a collaboration.
That's right.
Yeah, and what so for example, I saw a diagnostic tool for being future ready. This is very innovative, but the pilot was quite small, I would say.
It was very small, and there are very few schools who are. Schools are so scared. They want to go back to what they had. Nobody is interested in changing their entire way of looking at things. So it's hard. It's very difficult.
Okay. And since Adiyan or Adayan, which one?
Adhyayan.
Okay, Adhyayan. Since Adhyayan is your word, and the word which means like being transformed after studying a lot something. But first of all, that's a word I learned from you, and thank you for this learning. It's excellent work actually.
Yeah.
It's excellent work and excellent word itself.
Thank you.
What is your own transformation after making so much efforts and trying to change the world to make it a little bit a better place and everything? What is your own transformation right now?
I think I have become very humble. I have learned that I can do very little if other people are not interested. I have to find the common ground. I have to follow their lead. I have to understand that what they are saying is really important, and that there is a reason for them saying what they are saying. That the government servant is saying what he's saying because there's a reason for him becoming like that, and that I cannot hold him or her responsible for what they are. It is not something that they have done to themselves. So somewhere to be constantly looking at the systemic level, to constantly say how do I look at the ecosystem of this person, and to not look at the person as the problem, but to look at the ecosystem and to say how can I change something around this person so that will help this person to see something differently. That's what I'm more interested in today. So I think it's really being able to see the field and the tree, seeing the forest and the tree, not only looking at the tree, not looking only at the forest, but to see the symbiotic relationship between both.
So this is exactly compatible with the system change approach, and you. Your transformation is like you are even further believer of system change approach, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And the being humble enough to understand the other before judging, we may say.
That's right. And to accept that maybe they have more of a understanding than I have. Maybe they know how to read the situation more. And so I really have to understand them before I seek to be understood.
I see. Well, when we say system change, of course, we are part of Catalyst 2030, and this is the central approach for Catalyst. First of all, I want to understand how do you exist there? What do you see positively? What do you see less positively? And what do you think about this whole collaboration, let's say, space that is created?
So I think, if you're talking only about Catalyst, I can say, I also want to tell you that we do measure our success by not being required. That is very, very important for me. I think when we worked with the Goa state and we worked with the teachers and we got them to look at an option of going online, when it is the only government statewide which has been functioning online, the only government in India.
The only government?
The only state government which has, across all of the state government schools, that has been functioning online in India. And it's just incredibly interesting because we did that and we built capacity from within them to be able to train and work with each other. We created a design where it was actually practical training that they were doing, and they were discovering, they were enjoying it, they were really having fun, and they learned. And then they took it on, and then we were not required anymore. And that is my sense of success. Not to be required anymore. You can please, Kavita, please go do something else. Go and do something else. I want to be in that space. I want to feel that I can't do anything more because the education system is so good. I have no reason to be here anymore. I want it to be that. That's what I want. I want to be told, go on a holiday, baby. You don't need to be here anymore. That's great. So I would love that to happen. Now, similarly, I would like that kind of feeling to come into Catalyst, which is that what is it that we are doing, which is actually the other day when Arthur Wood came to one of the meetings and said that we have spent $3 trillion after the SDGs were decided, and today we are 20% less than what we were before.
Yes.
And 80% of the money has gone to the intermediaries. 80% of the money has gone to the intermediaries. Yeah.
Crazy.
That's crazy. So this is what I feel. We know these things. This is documented work. This is documented evidence. It is part of OECD's reports. We cannot pretend that this is not happening.
I see.
So what I feel is that the hardest thing in the review is when the school has to look at itself and see the ugly side.
Yeah.
I think we have to look at ourselves and see the ugly side, the dark side, and say, what are we doing? Are we adding to the problems in the world, or are we really improving the situation? So if we are adding to the problems, we should acknowledge it and say, what do we do to make the change? If we can't do it, then we don't have a right to say anything to anyone.
Yeah, but on the other hand, at the field, there are very concrete issues that have to be solved. That's for sure.
The people who need to solve them are the people.
Yeah.
Haluk, if I'm going to put an NGO and say, okay, you are poor, so I'm going to put an NGO and this NGO will teach the children. I'm not giving the people the money and saying, go get an education for your children. I'm saying this NGO will get the money to teach your children. So finally, what is it that I'm doing? I'm creating another layer on top of that other set. And am I really making them in any way better? I don't know. Because today with COVID, 30 million people are going back into poverty, or 300 million people are going into poverty. What is it that I've done? How many years is it going to take for anyone to say that a positive change has happened?
And in 10 years, due to climate change, also 92 million people will go to poverty. So we have even going backward.
We're going backwards.
Yeah.
We're going backwards.
Yeah.
So then are we not going to look and say, like in education, if children are bored, then we have to say, yes, there's a problem, right? If the SDGs are showing a decline, we have to say there is a problem. Something that we are doing is not making sense.
Okay.
And we have to change our strategies. We have to change the way we approach the problem.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing again and again is not going to become better.
And actually, about what you told already, one of the biggest problem is this gap between the existing funding models and the needs of the funds to be diverted. There's a big gap between the two. Okay.
Yes. So I think instead of saying that the rich should pay taxes, what we should be saying is that the rich should wipe out the debt of the world.
I see.
What is paying taxes going to do to a rich man who can't even see how much money he has because it's so big? Even if he gives 40% of it, it's not going to make any difference to anybody.
Yeah. But as you know, on the contrary, the really rich corporations, for example, pay the least tax. So
I'm saying don't ask for them to pay tax.
Yeah.
Ask them to take away the debt of the world, make it zero debt. Start tomorrow.
Yeah.
See what will happen to Greece if we make it zero debt.
But probably these are not happening.
But nothing is happening.
Yeah, nothing is. Yeah. Oh my God, we have quite a pessimistic let's say conclusion.
But I'm saying it's not pessimistic. I'm saying we have to do something to change the way we are operating.
Yeah, something
more
different.
of the same. Yes, more of the same is not getting us anywhere.
Okay.
So how can we, or together, what can we do? How can we put the pressure? If we can put the pressure on the people in a way that is productive, to say this is not acceptable, you cannot do this anymore. You know, we have to stand together and say, I'm sorry, but this is not okay. The way the world is being run is not okay. The UN has to say it's not okay. We can't keep saying that this is okay. And look at Afghanistan. How many of us are standing at the border of Afghanistan and saying it's not okay?
No, actually, on the contrary, there are walls that are getting higher and higher to not take anyone from them. Yeah. The situation is getting even worse.
Yes, and the world is getting divided into Muslim, non-Muslim, and I think that's even crazier.
Yeah, and you say 3 trillion is spent on this SDGs. 2 billion is spent by in this war in 20 years.
But Haluk, where is the money gone? The 2 billion has gone back to America.
Actually, that's what I'm saying. Even with let's say 20 billion, 1% of the money, you can create a much better infrastructure for the country.
Exactly, and the billions that you're talking about in Afghanistan went back to the arms manufacturers of America.
Mostly.
Yeah, it did not go into Afghanistan.
Yes, it went to the soil of Afghanistan, I would say.
No, I think the what went into the soil of Afghanistan were innocent American soldiers who died.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But the money went to the companies manufacturing tanks, airplanes, and arms and ammunition, guns. It's gone back to America and to its manufacturers.
Yeah.
The money has gone from the taxpayer, government tax money has gone to supporting manufacturers of arms. What are we trying to do here? Why are we not protesting this?
Well, we are stuck in this conversation, let's say. I will ask a last question. What do you think? You will be concentrated in your future?
On governance, I am convinced that that's the only way out.
Okay, so you will concentrate on the governance of schools again, right?
Of education.
Education.
Yeah, and saying that the governance has to be by the people; it cannot be by anybody else.
Okay, and when you defined schools, actually, you had a very broad definition. Again, in the Adayan educational services, you have a very broad definition, and you say wherever learning take place, it's a school, and it's a radical transformative definition, I would say.
Yes.
And you believe in it.
I believe the whole world is a school.
Yeah. Okay. I will say thank you very much for your time. I will stop the recording right now.
Thank you, Haluk. I'm sorry I didn't say the right things.
No. You just point out the views, and that's what we are talking. So these are your views, and they are very right in this perspective that they represent you. Sorry.